Welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping right into one of the most bizarre and honestly rapid collapses in recent pop culture memory. We're talking about the sudden, complete implosion of the U.S. 250th birthday concert lineup. We're going to look at exactly how this massive, historic celebration basically became the center of a huge controversy literally overnight.
So here's the big question. Why did a star-studded lineup for America's 250th birthday collapse in just 24 hours? It's the central mystery that's been completely dominating the headlines lately. And you know, the answer is absolutely fascinating. It's this wild blend of 90s nostalgia colliding head-on with high-stakes Washington politics.
Part 1. A massive 250th celebration, officially dubbed the Great American State Fair. Okay, so this whole thing started with this monumental announcement. We're talking about a massive 16-day event set to take over the National Mall in Washington, D.C., running from June 25th to July 10th, 2026. Picture a World's Fair-scale takeover right in the heart of the Capitol. They planned for a 110-foot Ferris wheel right there on the mall, plus a newly refurbished Smithsonian carousel. And every single day had a unique theme. You had Military and Veterans Appreciation Day, a Make America Healthy Again, or MAHA Monday, and of course, a massive Independence Day celebration. The whole pitch was that this would be a unifying event bringing together all 56 U.S. states and territories under one giant umbrella.
Which brings us to Section 2, the lineup collapses, a 24-hour exodus.
Now, let's look at exactly how things fell apart the very moment these music acts were revealed to the public. Honestly, the speed of this exodus is just stunning. So on Wednesday, the official lineup drops, and it's packed with these huge 90s pop, hip-hop, and country stars. But then, later that exact same day, Morris Day and Young MC publicly drop out. Bam! Then, the very next day, Thursday, country legend Martina McBride and R&B icons the Commodores announced they're out too. And later on that same Thursday, rock frontman Bret Michaels cancels. In barely 24 hours, the marquee talent had completely jumped ship. Just gone.
Section 3. The bait and switch. The artists speak out.
So what exactly happened? Why did they all leave so fast? Well, it really comes down to what a lot of these artists called a bait and switch. Martina McBride's exact phrasing is pretty telling here. She said, "I asked lots of questions and was assured this was a nonpartisan event that was meant to celebrate all 50 states. What we were told is, in fact, not what is happening." She explicitly states she thought she was signing up for a nonpartisan opportunity and really felt misled once the event's political affiliations actually became clear.
And Young MC completely echoed that exact sentiment. He came out and said it was a bait and switch. The artists were never told about any political involvement with the event. In fact, he faced this intense wave of online backlash from fans before he even realized the concert was tied to the Trump administration. He made a point to say that, as an independent, he wants his music to be an escape from politics, not some sort of tool for divisiveness.
Then you've got Bret Michaels, who noted that what was presented to them evolved into something much more divisive than what he originally agreed to. He even mentioned having to take threats and safety concerns seriously. Now, reports do show these threats were unfounded, but Michaels really emphasized that his whole goal has always been to unite people through music. And for him, the environment surrounding this specific fair had just strayed way too far from that unifying mission.
But here's a crucial detail. Who actually stayed? Because, not everyone left. Vanilla Ice and Fab Morvan from Milli Vanilli are still set to perform. Morvan actually stated his goal is simply to unite people, not divide them. He's basically treating the concert as a chance to entertain and celebrate history, completely regardless of the surrounding political backdrop.
Section 4. Inside Freedom 250. Who is actually organizing the fair? All right, this brings us to the real root of the entire controversy. Let's look at the official definition. Freedom 250 is officially the White House Task Force on celebrating America's 250th birthday. It was created by an executive order from President Donald Trump in January 2025, and it's led by CEO Keith Krach. Basically, it acts as the primary branding and funding arm for the administration's anniversary plans.
But wow, here is where things get highly complex. We are actually looking at two entirely separate entities here. On one side, you have America 250. This is a pre-existing bipartisan, congressionally authorized nonprofit that's been working on the 250th anniversary since way back in 2016. But on the other side is Freedom 250. This is the Trump-created task force, and it operates under a totally different structure. It's technically housed inside an opaque limited liability company, or LLC, tied to the National Park Foundation. So to be super clear, these are completely distinct groups with very different ways of operating.
And Freedom 250 has its own very specific administration-backed initiatives. Beyond just the Great American State Fair, they've proposed Patriot Games for high school athletes, taking 2 from each state. They're also producing co-branded history exhibits alongside conservative organizations like PragerU and Hillsdale College. Now, historians have strongly criticized these exhibits. They argue that the exhibits are blurring actual, factual history with AI-generated fiction and explicit political messaging, like having historical figures actually repeat catchphrases popularized by modern conservative commentators.
Moving to Section 5, Funding and Political Controversy. We're following the money.
Let's put our investigative hats on for a second to see what actually triggered a congressional probe into these event organizers. Just look at this number, $1 million. Freedom 250 has been actively offering access to the president for its top donors. If you make a $1 million donation, that grants you VIP access, special invitations, a private reception hosted by Donald Trump himself, and a historic photo opportunity.
And then there's an even larger number to consider. $10 million. Reports indicate that by the end of 2025, $10 million in funding was actually diverted away from the congressionally appropriated bipartisan America 250 group. That money was redirected right into Freedom 250 to fund their specific Freedom Trucks exhibits. To put that in perspective, that is a massive shift in resources. So, naturally, this financial setup has sparked some massive pushback from lawmakers. Democratic senators have launched a full-on probe into what they're calling dark money. There are serious congressional concerns about mixing public taxpayer money with private, undisclosed donations. Plus, that opaque LLC corporate structure of Freedom 250 we mentioned, it's being heavily questioned for its lack of transparency. On top of all that, there are reports of U.S. embassies aggressively fundraising overseas for the events, which is prompting even more questions from lawmakers about oversight and potential conflicts of interest. It's really a tangled web.
Which finally brings us to the big picture, and honestly, a really tough question. How can a nation universally celebrate its history in an era of such deep political division? This entire story, from the rapid exodus of 90s pop stars over a perceived bait and switch to the intense congressional probes over millions of dollars, it just shows how incredibly difficult it is to plan a unifying national birthday party today. The pop culture fallout we saw with that concert lineup, it's really just a mirror, reflecting the broader, highly polarized debate we're having over patriotism, history, and how we fund our national celebrations. Thank you so much for walking through this incredible story with me. It's an absolutely fascinating look at where music, politics, and history collide, and I hope this explainer has helped make this very complex controversy crystal clear.